Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And for those who are watching us from different time zones, good morning or good evening, wherever you may be. And for those who are first time in our platform, my name is Marilyn. I'm the CEO and founder of Customized Training Solutions Private Limited, or CTS, and we brand ourselves as Asia's most trusted training and business solutions partner. Registered as an event services company in Singapore, we organize bespoke training, roundtable discussions, and summits to help leaders generate profits, save on cost, and impact towards their business. And today we're having this pre-event for the Cyber Resilience Summit, which brings together leaders, practitioners, solutions providers, and experts to build resilient organization ready for the next decade. And today, we're going to talk about building trust, digital identity for the future of finance and digital e-commerce. And as they say, are password truly dying, or will they remain part of the security stack for the years to come? You will hear today different opinions from cybersecurity and fintech as well as infrastructure leaders, which makes the discussion dynamic. And I'd like to invite our speaker, starting with Rishab.
Hi,
He is
Mary.
a hi Rishab. Just to introduce you, you're the Chief Technology Officer at Indian Bank Digital Infrastructure Company with over 22 years of experience in driving digital transformation across fintech, insurtech, and telecommunication. He leads strategic technology initiatives that build scalable platforms, improve operational efficiency, and support innovation in financial infrastructure. Rishab is also a frequent speaker on digital transformation, financial inclusion, and information security. I also would like to introduce Lawrence Ferrer. He's the president and CEO of CIS Bayad Center Incorporated, leading the transformation of Bayad into a full service fintech platform. With over 20 years of experience in digital payments, product innovation, and business development, he has helped launch pioneering services such as Smart Money, Smart Load, Smart Padala, and PayMaya, advancing financial inclusions for millions of Filipinos. Hi, Lawrence.
Hello, Maryland. Pleasant day to everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so have you, and thank you again for accepting my invitation. And I also would like to introduce Kanika Mital. She is a partner in payments advisory for MENA region, specializing in growth strategy, partnerships, and market expansion across fintech payments, fintech, payments, AI, and e-commerce. She has worked with global and Fortune 500 organizations, leading data-driven initiatives that drive revenue growth, scale transaction volumes, and expands into new markets across APAC, the USA, and the Middle East. Hi, Kanika.
Hello, thanks for having me, and hello to fellow panelists.
Thank you, and it's our pleasure to have you. And last but not the least, we have Dev Key. He is a cybersecurity leader at Alibaba International Digital Commerce with over a decade of experience in security operations, cyber defense, and threat detection. He leads large-scale security programs across global platforms, focusing on AI-driven threat detection, scalable security operations, and internationally led defense to protect complex digital ecosystem. Hi, Devki. I think
Hello,
you're
Mary,
on.
and hello to my all fellow panelists. I'm excited to have this discussion, and this is actually very burning topic these days.
Yes, and today we're actually discussing around building trust digital identity for future of finance and digital e-commerce. And we also invite our audience, especially those who are actually joining us live today, to join us in this conversation. It's not about just us discussing all of these and learning from our expert panelists, but also join us. Let us know if you do have question. But to start with our discussion, I'd like to ask Rishab. So, in your perspective as a digital infrastructure uh, expert, as financial system digitalize rapidly, how important is digital identity infrastructure to the future of banking and financial services?
So thanks, Anil, for inviting me to this panel discussion. So this is the topic which is close to my heart. So I want to start with a thought. We often talk about digital identity as a security problem, something we solve to prevent fraud. But I would argue that framing is too narrow, frankly, too defensive. Digital identity is infrastructure, just like doing payment trails. It is a foundational layer on which everything else runs. And when infrastructure is weak or fragmented, the system becomes unreliable. So to directly answer the question, how important digital identity to the future of banking and financial services, my answer, it is not a feature, it is the foundation. And right now, most of the industry is building the future on a foundation that was developed long back. Let me ground this what's actually happening. The password was invented by MIT 1961. It was designed for a world where a few researchers shared a single computer. We then took that model and scaled it to 8 billion people, trillions of transactions, and real-time cross-border payments, and wondered why frauds keep on happening. Passwords don't fail because users are careless. They fail because shared secrets are architecturally broken or in a distributed network world. The moment a credential leaves your device to authenticate against a server, it can be intercepted, it can be phished, replayed, or breached at scale. In banking specifically, the cost of this is staggering. Global payment frauds are exceeding more than $50 billion. So the first thing I want the room to take away is we are not solving a fraud problem. We are retiring an old architecture. The shift happening today is from what you know that what you are and what you hold, biometrics and cryptographic keys. Passkeys are the most immediately deployable piece of this. Passkeys replace passwords with a public private key pair where private key never leaves your device. There's nothing on the server side to steal. Phishing becomes structurally impossible because key is bound to the holder. For banks and fintechs, isn't a UX problem. This is a shift in the threat model itself. Biometric adds what your layer, but I want to be precise here because biometrics are often misunderstood. The biometric itself should never travel. What travels is a cryptographic assertion that a biometric match occurred on a trusted device. This distinctions matters enormously for privacy and for regulatory compliance, especially in India where data privacy obligations are tightening. And there is a layer that I found more transformative for financial services, especially verifiable credentials. Verified credentials built on W3 standards allows any institution to issue a digitally signed credential to a user. That user holds a credential in a digital wallet. They can then present it to a relying party, which can cryptographically verify its authenticity without ever calling back to the issuer. Think about what this means in practice. A customer completes KYC, know your customer, as per in India standards, with one institution. And that KYC credential, verified income, national identity, his address, can be selectively disclosed to a lender, to an insurance provider for onboarding, and to a payment platform for account setup. The issuer doesn't know where the credential is being used. The holder controls what is being shared to the other party. This is the architecture that enables genuine financial inclusion because cost of identity verification, which is today borne repeatedly by every institution in a user's journey, collapses to near zero. Now I want to bring this to our context because India actually has a head start that the rest of the world is still replicating. Aadhaar-based eKYC. Aadhaar is a national identity program of India at its core, a verified credential system in which a government issue a biometric attestation used to authenticate identity at a point of service. What we built with India's tech is arguably the most sophisticated digital identity in the infrastructure in the world for financial services and brought more than 500 million people into the formal financial system in under a decade. That's not a technology story alone, that's an identity infrastructure story. Now I'll close this discussion with three things financial institutions should actually do. First, retire passwords at the customer interface. Now the technology is ready. Passkeys are supported on every major platform. The risk of inaction, breach, fraud, customer attrition is higher than the cost of migration. Second, think of identity as a data set, not a cost center. Every institution that completes a verified KYC event is creating a high value attestation. The question is whether you architect your system to make that attestation reusable by the customer downstream, or whether it stays logged in your ecosystem. The institutions that build issuance capability today will have distribution advantage tomorrow. Third, engage with the emerging verified credentials ecosystem. The global conversations are all pointing in the same direction. Interoperable, privacy preserving, cryptographically verified identity is where regulatory and commercial trajectories converge. Early movers will shape the standards in coming years, and the decisions we make in next 3 to 5 years will determine the shape of the financial services for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's a great reminder for us, as you mentioned, right? All of these are actually like from way back. There's a history how like all of these are actually showing up now, right? And it's important to know that, I mean, for especially for the financial industry where regulatory compliance, data privacy, um, is becoming more important, right? The transformative financial services that we have. And as you mentioned just now, it's really the credential has to be verifiable. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'd like to address my next question to Lawrence then. So having said that, you know, you have been helping millions of Filipinos in terms of these financial solutions that you are providing. So, for emerging markets like the Philippines, how can secure digital identity accelerate financial inclusions while also protecting users from fraud?
All right, Maryland. So, a little background for those that are not in the Philippines. I don't know if you're familiar with the Philippine landscape. We're made up of over 7,000 islands, 120 million people, and we're of high touch and high tech. And a little over half have financial access, which means the rest doesn't. So it's important for emerging markets like in the Philippines that the digital identity is a powerful enabler for financial inclusion because it allows millions of Filipinos to now have access to the formal financial system for the very first time. But inclusion has to be paired with trust. The government has been very, very progressive in the sense that they've recently enacted a new law, the Anti-Financial Account Scamming Act, or AFASA. This particular act is there to strengthen financial institutions as far as being able to detect fraud, freeze suspicious accounts, more efficient collaboration with the regulatory and law enforcement. Another particular provision of that act was that we are moving away from password driven authentication to other more secure means of verification like biometrics, device authentication, and behavioral analysis. For platform providers like Bayad, just to share with you, Bayad or CS Bayad Center is the largest and pioneer when it comes to bills payment aggregation. So practically 9 out of 10 of all the fintechs, banks connect to us and we provide them bills payments and we provide them the biller network. It's important to us because it allows us to make financial services accessible. More importantly, it protects our customers from fraud. So technologies like biometrics, as I mentioned, behavior analysis, will be critical to improve our onboarding and create better use cases. Ultimately, financial inclusions can only scale when people trust the system. So, digital identity, as you pointed out, Marilyn, is the foundation of that trust. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence, for sharing that with us. And again, for those who are not familiar with Philippines, um, now you have a view of it as well from Lawrence. And it's good to know, as you've mentioned, that at least our government are actually very progressive when it comes to like tackling this frauds and like financial crimes in that sense. Because I mean, this is one of the most common challenges. I'd say like for individuals, not only for enterprise and not only for Philippines, I would say, but for most countries, right? Fraud and other financial scams and crimes are actually like uh, getting more and more common, I would say, right? So thank you so much, Lawrence, for that. And speaking of the payment ecosystem and the trust that you just mentioned earlier, Lawrence, I'd like to address my next question to Kanika, who's expert in the payment and ecosystem. So, from a global payment and partnership perspective, how is digital identity becoming a competitive advantage for platforms and fintech ecosystem?
Thanks, Marilyn, and some good points here from Rishabh and Lawrence. Um, I'm trying to not repeat. So, some of the things Rishabh said about foundation layer, it's very foundational. And safety and security, if we get to a point we can actually retire passwords, and maybe we're there already. And then Lawrence mentioned or shared a statistic on financial inclusion, which is becoming more and more important. And the more people are brought into the space of financial inclusion for the first time, or relatively newer demographics, they would need to be able to trust the system to continue to keep going. I, so, from a very payment centric view, I've always seen payments as the engine, right? So, if payments is the engine, then identity is the fuel. And the reason I say that is right now, most platforms are still running on low grade fuel. Um, so, they are not developing the trust and hence the requirement of password. Now, I'll give you an example. In Singapore, you live in Singapore. I've lived in Singapore for a very long
Yes.
time. The second, exactly right. So the second SingPass was launched, people immediately trusted that platform, and after SingPass in Singapore or even Aadhaar in India, the onboarding completion rates became significantly higher, for people on the exact same platforms that they were using before. Things like mortgage, opening a new bank account, where there were friction points, they suddenly vanished with SingPass. In one case, a partner actually reduced onboarding times from days, 3, 4 days to minutes, because of that infrastructure. And now that eliminated the need for password because the consumers trust, the regulatory infrastructure like SingPass, and trust it. So I would say that digital identity now is no longer a backend function. It's becoming more and more frontline as a differentiator, and it is impacting growth. It is impacting trust. And how ecosystems obviously then scale, whether it's domestically or globally. The reason Paytm and PayNow are able to interact today so well from a payments perspective is, because of that people that don't need the password, they have that underlying, safety and security already embedded. I mean, I can go on with the examples. I can, keep citing. Like for instance, in one of the conversations I was having with one of the global payments partners, was a negotiation. The conversation shifted from pricing to who owns the customer identity layer, because whoever owns that layer, then ultimately owns the customer relationship, and that's where I think the long term value sits. So that's all from me. So I think it's really important. Maybe later, if we're talking about, how we think it's going to go, I can talk more about it.
Well, that's great. I mean, I really love that you've also like shared some examples from your experience in Singapore, so that makes it easier for our audience to understand it. And I really it's interesting when you said it's now like a differentiator, right? And it's important to know as well that you've mentioned that this impacts not only the trust but obviously the scale, because a lot of businesses are also like depending on how they can scale the solutions that they're using, right? So thank you so much for that. And earlier as well, Kanika, you mentioned how like it's getting more like challenging because you're coming from the uh, initial perspectives coming from Rishab and Lawrence, and now with Devki as the last person sharing it, but more on the cybersecurity perspective, I would say. So all the best to you. So as authentication evolves beyond passwords, what new cyber threat should organization prepare for, and how can they stay ahead? Having said that.
All right. I think Rishabh, Lawrence, and Kanika have explained very well, and this sets the foundation that not account but digital identities are taking the center stage. And um, as organizations move beyond password towards biometrics, passkeys, or device-based authentications, uh, the threat landscape is also evolving. And I see the biggest risk we see today is not password cracking. It's identity takeover. And as Kanika explained very well, in Singapore, SingPass brings a lot of trust and transparency between both the person whose identity has been taken and the consumer or business who is taking the identity. So with this, I think digital identity is becoming the new security parameter, and more means the industry is getting ready for it. We are still not ready. It is easier for me to authenticate Rishabh's account. I'm sorry for taking your name, but how do I verify whether behind this password or email address is it really Rishabh or somebody else? So in modern world, I will say there are three there are three key cyber threats in this new era, where in the passwordless era, it's shift from account takeover to identity takeover attacks. So passwords might disappear, but that does not eliminate the identity attacks. And we see it every day in our systems, in my day-to-day task, that attackers are now targeting into authentication tokens, session cookies, SSO SSO accounts or OAuth tokens, and relying on account recovery flaws. Uh, in modern time, that I see a shift that attackers are not trying to break into the system; they are directly trying to log into your systems because they know the accounts. So, and the second would be the AI driven identity fraud. I think AI is accelerating the fraud capabilities. AI generated phishing, deepfake voice fraud, synthetic identities, or automated fraud bots are increasingly means at very high volume today. uh, AI is actually dramatically lowering down the barrier for the fraud. Attackers can now generate very, very convincing identities, voices, and document at very scale. And third, the last means third important threat I see is the device and session compromise, because the in the passwordless era, we are moving towards the trusted devices or maybe biometrics, passkeys or token. Uh, so attackers are now targeting towards more towards compromised devices or browser session hijacking or token theft malware. So passwordless authentication removes the weakest factor in our cybersecurity, the password, but it shifts the attack surface to devices, sessions, and identity infrastructure. And the second part, how organizations can stay ahead. I think NIST has very good guideline for the zero trust. It says
Mm-hmm.
that never trust, always verify. So we have to truly live by that principle. And at the last, I would also like to say there is another important shift coming, especially in my e-commerce industry, is the AI agents. And recently, OpenAI and Stripe has published agentic commerce protocol, a document specification where and McKinsey also published a report in November or October 2025 that in the future we might not be involved in the e-commerce or in the shopping. We will just direct our agent to what I want, and that will go and find the product for me. And that shifts from passive shopping to the active shopping, and that agent can take the decision. So how do we protect the identity for this agent, which is not the real person but acting on my behalf and has the authority? I think that is also in next few years, that will be a quite challenging topic for cybersecurity. Yeah, with this, I think I will close my notes, and I will be open to hear more feedback or if there is anything else to discuss.
Yes, and again, if we have for our live audience, feel free to ask questions if you have any. But let me proceed to my last question, which is for everyone. And I would say that ladies first, because Kanika has a hard stop as well. So, what's your, I would say, magic wand in this conversation? So, what's your strategic future as well when it comes to this conversation, right? So looking ahead in maybe 5 years or even shorter, right? Because nowadays everything evolves faster than we ever think, right? So what will trusted digital identity look like for banking, fintech, and digital commerce? And what should organizations start building today? I mean, just now Devki mentioned around the AI agent, and the other evolving threat landscape that are coming up as well, right? So having said that, how do we address that, right? And what else do they need to do to prepare for it?
Yeah, thanks, Marilyn. Very loaded question, actually. But yeah, let me take a stab at it. Devki said something which was very interesting, and something I think about as well. In the world of payments, you really can never trust with the increasing fraud. And now fraud is not just limited to transaction fraud, but it could be account takeovers and and what have you. So he said, never trust, always verify. So I do think, going forward, that might be one of. So going forward, I think there'll be two, three key big shifts. One is to Devki's point, identity moving from KYC to continuous authentication. Um, so constantly evaluating the identity behind. He took the example of Rishabh, so I definitely think that is one of the ways, one of the shifts we'll be seeing. Secondly, I feel it could be greater use, not could be, it should be or would be greater use of AI driven risk scoring and real time. And I've seen this in payments again and again. The reliance on AI is already pretty high for risk models. Especially in certain key markets or demographic or specific market segments, where this becomes very, very important to have in your risk models, and then constantly bettering that risk model as well. And then identity, I think this could be a big shift as well. The third one, the identity. What's the word? the identity becoming portable across ecosystems, you know.
Mm.
So the ability to replicate the risk models, you know, across ecosystems and not just have it in the banking space or not just to have it in the credit card space, I think, but to also move it to, you know, auxiliary areas of payments, for instance. I think that would be a big shift as well. And I mean, from a secret sauce perspective, I think for from a payments perspective, conversion and the UX, the user experience. I mean, you just cannot stop keeping or take your eyes off conversion even for a day, even for an hour. So every extra KYC step means a drop off point. For me, smart identity, frictionless onboarding, higher approval rates, they all go hand in hand with higher conversions. Second, to me, would be again back to fraud and trust. It's no longer just transactions, right? It's synthetic identities and all of that. So platforms that continuously invest in identity layers, they can actually price risk better as well, and hence better margins as well, and better conversions. And then ecosystem expansions, like I said, you know, the portability. So I'm thinking payments related to lending, related to wallets, related to cross-border. You know, being able to have very solid risk across segments would be really, really, like it could be a secret sauce. We're working towards it. We're not there yet, and it would become foundational for embedded finance. So hope that answers all your questions.
Thank you. That's quite a lot, I would say. So thank you so much for that. So and then I hope that the rest of our panelists will still be able to share. And here's my summary of what I got from you. Again, the three big shift, like what you said, is really more of continuous authentication, real time AI driven scoring, and of course smart identity, like addressing like the fraud and trust, and improving the ecosystem itself. So, who would like to go next?
Mm, I can go. I think Kanika explained very well, but uh, maybe means this is just a prediction. No, I cannot predict completely the future, but maybe passwords have served us for a very long time, and in future, uh, passwords might disappear, or having a password-based systems will be called a weaker cybersecurity solution. So
Mm-hmm.
that shift might happen in real time, and it's happening. All major providers are already shifted to passkeys or token based authentication system. Second, I think this also was emphasized by Kanika, the portable digital identity. So SyncPass is a very good example. In India, Aadhaar-based authentication system is very good example. The identity shift towards very verified place backend, and everybody just fall back to that identity, and you can trace back to the not to the account to the identity. And in future we will see more adoption like these government based digital identity six IDs or verifiable identities and trusted identity wallets. And I think last and the least, I am more focusing on AI. I feel that in next 5 years, identity system will not only verify people, but they will also verify AI agents acting on behalf of the people. So uh, in this, I think this will require a delegated authorization or cryptographic agent identity. And even today, I was reading one article that was saying in earlier before 2000, uh, we were chasing for .com, like I want to register my domain, and after 2000 we were moving towards our personal handle, like uh, at at Devkipal. And now in the agentic era, we are moving towards having an identity for agent, how we identify the agent. So this is still a concept, and I think industry is adopting it. uh, but in future, the identity will also be one of the key driving factor for to enable these technologies.
Thank you so much for that, Devki. And again, it's a passwordless future, as you've mentioned. And before Rishab and Lawrence go ahead with their take on this, I just want to acknowledge Jessica, Rebecca, Justin for giving us some love. And of course, Tops is also watching us live and giving us a thumbs up. So thank you so much for that. And again, if you have any questions, whether we answer it later, just tag the specific expert that you'd like to ask, if any. So who would like to go next?
So I can go next.
Okay, Rishabh.
This entire space is moving very fast. So as Indian Bank's digital infrastructure company, we are consortium of 18 banks in India, and currently we are architecting and building the entire digital trade ecosystem for the country. And the entire identity stack, whether it's a DIDs or verified credentials, is core to our stack basically, so that trade can happen in a trustworthy way between different global players basically. And in last few months, I've seen all the major digital public infrastructure institutions of the country, whether it's UIDAI, DigiLocker, they started offering the credentials as a verified credentials model, and they started inviting various organizations to build on that verified credentials model. So that shift had already started happening, and this is also being echoed by Lawrence and Kanika and probably and Devki. So it's not too far since I think probably in a couple of years, pass keys will be the baseline. The password will effectively dead at the consumer layer. The transition is already happening. In next 5 years, it simply be complete. I think that's what I feel. And verified credentials will power institutional trust. KYC verified once, trusted anywhere with the customer consent. That's already been happening. And no more every institution will be verifying the same credentials, and this will bring the financial inclusion to next billion people, set of people. And this shift is, I think, 5 years. Certainly I feel it's a longer time. I think it should happen before start happening before that only. Thanks.
Thank you. That's all, Rishab.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And again, as you've mentioned, it's really more of a verifying credential model, as you shared. And Lawrence, what's your
Okay,
magic?
so I'll take the final statement. Um, well, I'd like to add and not to repeat what the gentleman and lady mentioned. So the sad reality is that fraudsters will become more daring and they will be more sophisticated. We
Mhm.
don't know exactly what that will be in the future, but definitely they will use AI to defraud people. And my thoughts about it is that
Mhm.
yes, going through migrating from password to authentication, device authentication, and constant verification is critical to protecting the customer. But on top of that, I think there are a few things that we can do on a practical basis. First and foremost is customer education, and this has to do with regular, honest to goodness communication to your customers and telling them to protect their accounts. No matter what, it has to be a shared responsibility across the whole ecosystem. The
Sure.
customers have to protect their accounts. More importantly, the industry players, the platform providers, the service providers, even the regulatory, they have to act together on this. As I mentioned, it's a shared responsibility and accountability to ensure that the digital economy continues to grow at scale.
Mhm.
And that means the system has to be trusted. People have to trust the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, that's why we are doing this converse or having this conversation really is really to create more awareness, to educate more people around this, and at the same time, again, it's all about collaboration. This is such a huge challenge that we are all facing, and we need to create as much awareness and work together, collaborate more, because again, as you've all mentioned, it's an ecosystem, right? It's not just for banks or just for fintech or e-commerce, but it's for everyone, whether you're an individual or enterprise. It's necessary for us to all collaborate to so that we can fight as well the fraudsters, right? So thank you so much for taking time to have this conversation with us. And I really appreciate your expertise and sharing examples as well that made it more practical, this conversation more practical for our audience. And if again, I'd like to invite our guests or those who will be watching this video, not only live, but post event, to share your takeaway or questions, and tag our experts if you have any. So again, thank you so much to our distinguished panelists. And again, thank you so much as well to our amazing participants today. And of course, we would like to take this opportunity to also invite you on our upcoming summit called Cyber Resilience Summit on April 16 and 17 at Crown Plaza Manila Galleria and Zoom events. It's going to be a hybrid event. So if you're not in the Philippines, you can always join us through Zoom. And again, this is for levels who understand that cyber resilience is a leadership mandate for CISOs and IT heads to learn practical strategies, tools, and techniques. And of course, for solutions providers who can address these problems with decision makers, with a group of decision makers, and who are looking in the growing Philippine market as well. So again, thank you so much, and looking forward to collaborating with all of you again. So with that, thank you and bye for now.
Thanks, Marilyn. Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.